For refugees wanting to return home, Timbuktu is every bit as remote as its name suggests. This is Mopti, a long day's drive by bus from the capital, Bamako, and still several days away from Timbuktu by boat. Since the French army secured the north of the country from jihadist rebels, refugees have started to trickle back. Idrissa was my guide and translator when I first travelled to Timbuktu in 2008. He fled his hometown last April, soon after the rebels arrived, and has been living in exile ever since. Now he's offered to take me back with him. For most refugees, the only affordable way to travel from here to Timbuktu is by panas, a motorised canoe. This one is dangerously overloaded. How do you feel about travelling on a boat like this, Idrissa?
This boat is a very, very small boat, and then there is no shade. Oh, it's difficult to get it to Timbuktu now.
Our boat barely sits above the waterline, and it's leaking. The boat's not going to sink?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Idrissa can't swim, so perhaps we were lucky that our trip was cut short. At an army checkpoint, soldiers told me I wasn't authorised to travel downriver and ordered Idrissa and me off the boat. So the next day, we set off again for Timbuktu, this time by car. The road was only open to civilians a few days ago, and there are still reports of jihadist attacks in nearby villages. Most vehicles we see are in military convoys. Everywhere we found reminders of the fighting between French forces and the rebels. Security is shared between the French and Malian armies. There are frequent checkpoints. Finally, we rejoin the Niger River. Timbuktu lies a short distance away on the other side.
Now is almost 9 months that I left Timbuktu. 9 months, and I miss Timbuktu so much. It's been a long time. I have been someplace where I don't know. Very happy to come back.
Idrissa's family returned to Timbuktu last week and found their home had been looted and vandalised. For now, they're staying in a friend's house.
Yeah, so when I was traveling, I found out our house, they take everything.
The family home was targeted by the jihadists because Idrissa worked with Western tourists.
Our beds is gone, everything we have is gone, so...
You must have been so upset.
Very upset, yeah. But I'm also very happy that the army, French and Mali, fight them to go out, so now I can come back to home and I can have the real feel.
French soldiers on patrol are greeted like heroes here. Most people resented the rebels and the fanatical interpretation of Islam that they imposed. An interpretation that went from whipping people for dressing immodestly and amputating the hand of a thief to covering up faces on the town's hand-painted signs. Timbuktu has its own proud and unique place in Islamic history. And this is what I came here to report on 5 years ago. The tattered manuscripts I was shown inside this chest were part of the earliest written record from sub-Saharan Africa. Some dated back to the 13th century. Old copies of the Quran, as well as books about astronomy, medicine and agriculture.
لأن هذا أجدادنا يكونوا في البوادي.
This was just one of many collections scattered around Timbuktu, ranging from a few metal trunks in a shed to large libraries containing tens of thousands of manuscripts.
Et que nous avons connu l'écriture depuis le XIe siècle. On a écrit avant certains auteurs, certains pays européens, certains occidentaux.
In 2008, I met local historian Salem Ould El Haj. He explained that Timbuktu was once a vital link in trade routes connecting Europe, the Middle East and Africa.
Oui, moi j'ai aimé faire ma vie au XVIe siècle. C'était une ville intellectuelle, c'était une ville cultivée, c'était une ville très peuplée, c'était une ville vraiment avec des écoles coraniques, avec des universités. C'était une ville qui a joué un rôle dans le commerce international. C'est l'âge d'or de Tombouctou, j'aimais vivre en ce temps.
As I found on my first visit, much was being done to try and preserve what remained of this golden age. 30,000 manuscripts were being catalogued at the largest library, the Ahmed Baba Institute. It was also getting a new home, thanks to a $7.5 million grant from the South African government. After centuries of neglect, it finally looked like the manuscripts were in safe hands. But then, in April last year, towns in Mali's north started falling to an alliance of separatist rebels and militant Islamists. News surfaced that historic monuments, the tombs of revered saints, were being destroyed. When Timbuktu was finally liberated, the world wanted to know the fate of the manuscripts.
Bonjour. Ah, bonjour. Vous allez bien? Monsieur Edmond Mullet, c'est le sous-secrétaire général des Nations Unies pour le maintien de la paix, qui est en visite officielle ici. Enchanté, Abdoulaye Cisse.
The Jihadists actually lived in the Ahmed Baba Institute for almost 9 months.
La cendre de choses.
Its acting director, Abdoulaye Cisse, shows his guests what they did on the day they left town.
Oui, donc le vent a emporté la cendre. Sinon, ça c'est les boîtes de conservation. Oui, donc ils ont tout vidé ici et tout brûlé. Maintenant, les numéros, on a fait les décomptes. Ce qu'on a perdu ici, ça fait 4203 manuscrits.
Une vraie tragédie. Hein.
Ah ouais.
Une vraie tragédie.
C'est dommage.
Ça viole culturellement. Non. Parce qu'il faut se souvenir que derrière chaque lettre de chaque mot, de chaque phrase, il y a eu une pensée, il y a eu quelqu'un qui a écrit, qui a réfléchi, qui a transmis.
C'est une perte énorme. Ça,
But just as incredible as what was lost is the story of what was saved. The Ahmed Baba Institute had almost 40,000 manuscripts in its collection, and when news of the fire spread, many people feared they'd all gone up in smoke. But almost 90% were still being stored in the Institute's old building across town. They weren't safe here either.
Quand les rebelles sont rentrés à Timbuktu, on a vu qu'il y a eu insécurité dans la ville, il y a eu beaucoup de banditisme dans la ville. Nous aussi, on a commencé à avoir des soucis pour les manuscrits.
Abdelkader Haidara owns the largest private manuscript collection in Timbuktu, the Mama Haidara Library. From Bamako, Haidara helped coordinate the astonishing rescue of tens of thousands of manuscripts from Timbuktu, including those from the Ahmed Baba Institute.
Je dis que vraiment, c'est un travail très très dur. C'est un travail collectif. C'est un travail qu'une seule personne ne peut jamais faire.
Abba Al-Hadi, the caretaker at the old institute, played a key role in spiriting away the written treasures. Every evening his son would carefully pack the manuscripts in their conservation boxes inside sacks that usually contain rice or flour. Abba Al-Hadi would stand guard outside to see if anyone was coming.
Ngai mata mobilise ku ay ga signal mais fa ay kina da mahala cha kudiya ben sade kate kusunombe.
The bags were placed on carts and donkeys before being distributed to trusted families, other manuscript owners in Timbuktu. It took 3 weeks to remove them all. It was a race against time because the jihadists knew the manuscripts were here. The manuscripts were then transferred to metal trunks that were smuggled out of Timbuktu by donkey, riverboat and car, right under the noses of the jihadists. The scale of the challenge was enormous.
Il faut voir seulement, nous on a fait déplacer plus de 2500 cantines de Timbuktu vers les autres régions. Et on ne peut pas faire sortir plus de 2 ou 3 cantines par véhicule.
The librarians had soon bought up all the trunks in Timbuktu and Mopti. They then bought sheet metal and had more trunks made. The jihadists never knew what was going on. Funding for the clandestine operation was provided by a small group of governments and charities from around the world. It wasn't cheap.
Et on est obligé de faire accompagner 2 personnes de Timbuktu jusqu'à la destination. Ça c'est un. Et il faut compter combien de postes de contrôle qu'on rencontre. Dans chaque poste de contrôle, il ouvre les cantines. Il veut faire sortir les manuscrits et les manuscrits sont très très fragiles. Donc qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire? Il faut payer. Il faut payer pour les laisser, il regardait, il les fermait. Donc, ça a coûté énormément de l'argent, très cher.
So where are the manuscripts now? Although the story of their rescue has been made public, none of the libraries have permitted journalists to see their smuggled treasure. Until today.
Voilà devant M. Ahmed Al-Mahdi, l'auteur d'exfiltration de nos manuscrits de Timbuktu à Bamako. Et voilà le trésor qu'il a pu nous amener, qu'il a pu sauver, des griffes des djihadistes.
This small room contains more than 30,000 priceless manuscripts belonging to the Ahmed Baba Institute. And this is the mild-mannered librarian who, together with the 2 security guards, packed them in these sacks and trunks.
Bon, c'est très dangereux parce que Zadike quand c'est Hambourg quoi. Kai Sadike rejoga c'est Hambourg quoi, damga sa damga problème fo quoi. Mais Sadike ben Sadine guraka dagar jihadiste dogi nda yagari dinay. Akul ite dumboy kam woli dumboy cedi wala il vient jati parce que je suis un voleur. Ah ouais.
It was the French army who liberated Timbuktu from the rebels. But it was the librarians, people prepared to risk their lives for the written word, who saved the city's history from those who would have seen it go up in smoke.
Bina di ansa kan quoi parce que kanda ay sauvé ay ka sanda dunya di kuro nanda man tuba afrique hinno nanda dunya di kuro nanda parce que histoire gara hay kurgara quoi donc ay ka dunya kuro nanda nda bor hinka sauvé akana dini bina da sanda bino di kanda ndey go sa kurke guna e bina nyali quoi voilà.